Gonna check the audio. I'm gonna run the intro and be back very soon with yet another tranche of details on the case of Jeffrey Epstein. Testing 1, 2.
Get time.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make sure that my legends get a payoff.
You totally do.
They get their money's worth.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Media, you're kicking ass.
Okay, well, here we go with Friday again. There's something about Friday. There's always something happening on Friday. It's incredible. This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. And this morning, the House Oversight Dems dropped a load of information with regard to Jeffrey Epstein. They dropped some photos, which everyone is now breaking and reporting on. I wanted to go, though, to Hakeem Jeffries' press conference to see if this comes up. This should be ending fairly soon.
Well, Donald Trump has tried to conduct himself like a wannabe king from the very beginning. The American people are clearly rejecting that approach. And on artificial intelligence, this is a complicated thing, a transformative innovation that has the possibility of bringing great societal benefits, particularly in the areas of medicine and education, as it relates to reaching young people who live in historically under-resourced parts of the country. But at the same period of time, it's our view that this transformative technology in the hands of bad actors presents risks of creating societal harm. And this is why a thoughtful approach is needed. Not a my way or the highway executive order. In our view, related to Donald Trump's most recent action connected to artificial intelligence, is that he doesn't have the authority to do it. And ultimately, it's going to get struck down in court.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Some members of your party are calling for the abolition of ICE following the administration's very aggressive crackdown on illegal immigration. Is that a viewpoint that you believe has a place in your party right now as Democrats strive to take back power after
Who
the
exactly
midterms?
has made that?
Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez has, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez has, also Patty Garcia, who is running to replace Chuy Garcia, Graham Plattner as well. They have said that this should not exist and it should cease.
Yeah, I haven't had the conversation with any of those individuals about their perspective. What we do know is that the American people believe that Donald Trump's deportation efforts have been completely and totally out of control, unacceptable, and un-American. That's the reality of what Donald Trump has unleashed on law-abiding immigrant communities all across America. And the American people are rejecting it, which is why Donald Trump is also underwater in terms of public approval on immigration. Now, we believe, as Democrats broadly, that we need a strong and a secure border consistent with our history and experience as a nation anchored in the rule of law. Donald Trump doesn't believe in the rule of law, and neither do his sycophants who serve in Congress, who failed to understand that we're a separate and co-equal branch of government, not a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump cartel, because that's how they behave. So we believe in the rule of law, and part of that is a strong border. But at the same period of time, we're a nation of immigrants. And so we're going to continue to defend dreamers, defend farm workers, defend farm country, defend law-abiding immigrant families and communities across the country who are part of the ingredient of American exceptionalism. That's our position. And we do have a broken immigration system. Everybody thoughtful who's taking a look at it understands that. But the way to solve it is not a my way or the highway approach, and it certainly is not the Trump deportation machine. He promised that he was going to target violent felons. No one would have any issues with that. He's not deporting violent felons. He's deporting law-abiding immigrants, veterans who served this country, children who are actually American citizens, grandmothers and grandfathers, gardeners, and communities across the country are rejecting it.
Mr. Leader, as sort of a follow-up to that question, today Congressman Abe Hamadeh is inviting families who've had family members killed by undocumented immigrants to the Capitol.
Who is that?
Abe Hamadeh of Arizona.
Okay.
And I want to ask about 2026 and how you're encouraging border state Democrats to respond to messaging such as this, because it was a big issue in 2024, and it appears that some Republicans are ready to message on it in 26.
We'll let border state Democrats speak for themselves.
Okay, so he's going to talk. He's getting understandably, a lot of immigration questions because immigration is in the news because the Trump administration is grabbing American citizens. They've been grabbing American citizens really since the beginning of this process, and now it's really starting to hit the news a lot harder, particularly after the incident in Minnesota where they grabbed an individual of Somali descent who is an American citizen. They held him for hours. He finally got out, and he made a very lengthy statement with the mayor of Minneapolis and the police chief of Minneapolis standing right next to him. And in Maryland last night, Kilmar Garcia, who they are absolutely obsessed about, who they tried to send to Africa, he has now been sent back home. And then a judge has decided to give him a protective order against his own government, against the U.S. government. So this immigration thing is starting to hit a head. But to get to Jeffrey Epstein, I'll do immigration on another episode. There's a ton to talk about there. To get to Jeffrey Epstein, this morning, Friday morning, December 12th, the Democrats who are on the House Oversight Committee released more files with regard to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, keep in mind that because of the discharge petition that passed a few weeks ago, the Justice Department is supposed to release all of the files on the 19th of December, which, of course, is next Friday. It's very interesting timing. It's right before Congress goes out on vacation. You can bet that that's going to be released like at midnight on Friday. But also keep in mind that there are other entities that have the Epstein files. One is the Epstein estate, and the other is the House Oversight Democrats. And this morning they put out a press release. This is the press release on the screen. Ranking Member Robert Garcia's statement after Oversight Democrats received 95,000 new photos, 95,000 new photos from the Epstein estate, including images with Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, and Larry Summers. So these are never before seen photos of a sort of a diverse group of influential people, several of whom have said in the past that, hey, I wasn't involved, or hey, in the case of Bill Clinton, I didn't go to the island, I was never on the plane, etc. In fairness to everybody involved, we don't have a ton of context around some of these photos. other than the context around the case against Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody else on that list who's mentioned in that press release has been adjudicated for any matter with regard to sex trafficking or any sexual violence related crime other than, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. But it is interesting to note some of the other people. And just to read the press release here today, Rep. Robert Garcia, ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, released the following statement after the Oversight Committee received new photos from the Epstein estate. The latest production contains over 95,000 photos, including images of the wealthy and powerful men who spent time with Jeffrey Epstein. Images also include thousands of photographs of women and Epstein properties. Oversight Democrats are reviewing the full set of photos and will continue to release photos to the public in the days and weeks ahead. Now, what that translates for me to is that if in fact DOJ decides to not release all of these files and decides to say, well, we're going to redact. I mean, there's a big rumor that's sort of more than a rumor. It's been reported that officials from the Justice Department have tried to redact these files at some warehouse in Winchester, Virginia. We don't know if that's true or not, of course, until the files come out. And the question is, will they come out in their entirety? What's interesting here is it would seem, of course, the Epstein estate would appear to have a duplicate set of files. I mean, I would think that they would. And they're releasing some of that information. And yes, I am trying to find, I think it's the BBC here that has a sort of a story here that features the photos in question that were released this morning. And the BBC took the time to do some captioning here, which is quite nice, of some of these photos in terms of just saying who's in them and what's going on. And there's one with Steve Bannon, for example. Again, in fairness, we don't have the full context. These are images. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was, of course, a very influential person who met with a lot of people. So we don't want to get too far over our skis, assuming that any of the people in the photos are guilty of anything. They are in meetings with him, and these are not salacious pieces of photography. But I just want to repeat again that none of these people have been adjudicated for the crimes that he's been adjudicated for, or Ghislaine Maxwell. But this is a tranche of photos that were released this morning by the House Democrats. And of course, this is now widely reported all over the place, with everybody breaking in and doing special reports on these photos that are now circulating. And there will, of course, be more photos. That's another photo of Bannon, a mirror. It's taking a photo of a mirror. And that's Woody Allen and Bannon. Epstein is not in this image. And so, once again, I would think that what this really is sort of a signal to everybody at DOJ. Hey, if you want to get cute and not release everything, we have a copy of the same information. And when you say 95,000 photos, apparently these photos were in the email account of Jeffrey Epstein. In his email, obviously when you have email attachments and there's a case, and then of course there's discovery, all of these things were likely the product of discovery. But the list of people included in some of these photos includes Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Woody Allen, Larry Summers, Alan Dershowitz, the entrepreneur and businessman Richard Branson, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, otherwise known as Prince Andrew, although his title was changed recently, and of course Bill Gates. Once again, there is no assertion in these files with regard to guilt of anything, but it is interesting to peruse some of the files to see who is in them. Not sure why this photo is here with Gates and Andrew and Prince Charles, with Epstein is not in that photo. And this is this image that has been heavily redacted. They're redacting, of course, the people who are in this image because, of course, those people may in fact be survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know that one way or the other. But in the middle of the frame, of course, is the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. So this is probably going to get certainly this is going to get Donald Trump extremely angry, and this is going to get crazy real soon, because if there's something that if there's a subject that drives Trump nuttier and crazier by the second, it's this subject of Jeffrey Epstein. And the fact that the estate has the power to put the photos out and the House Democrats have the power to put the photos out puts the Trump administration at a huge tactical disadvantage when it comes to messaging and when it comes to what they want to say. They keep trying to sort of run this play of, you know, trying to sort of pretend that, oh, this is no big deal. You know, why didn't this come out during Biden? I'm not sure that's a good argument for them, because if you're saying why didn't it come out during Biden, then you're not having any problem with it coming out. Well, these photos are coming out. Photos tend to have a much harder impact than just words, because people can look at a photo and deduct a lot of things around that photo. And here we have another image of Donald Trump laughing with some woman, and Epstein is in the same frame. Donald Trump again. We have this condom image, which, incredibly is sitting out there. I'm sure that's going to be pretty embarrassing for the White House. I don't know if the White House plans a briefing today, but man, it's going to be a hot time in Old Town tonight if there is a briefing today. Let me see if I can find out on my phone. But again, this puts them at a huge disadvantage. The more content that comes out that they can't control, and this is exactly the type of content that comes out that they can't control, that is problematic, right? This content is out of control of the White House. They cannot really out of the control of the Trump White House. I mean, they can't control how this comes out when the estate, decides they're going to put it out. There was a judge the other day in Florida that decided, okay, we're going to release some Epstein file. I mean, these things are just, this boulder is coming down the hill fast into 2026. Of course, things will go quiet during the Christmas holiday, and then they will probably ramp up again after, when these files come out. We have 95,000 photos. There's a lot of pieces that have to be put together, and there's a lot of people who are involved and interested in these photos and in this story. And already you have several news organizations setting up databases. That's Robert Garcia, who put the press release out today announcing that new files were coming out. I mean, what happens is that the more people looking at this, the more databases that are created, the more people who are surrounding this situation and watching this, the worse it gets for the Trump administration. It's as simple as that. The more live conversations, because the other thing that happens on X is that there's sort of a group of people that throws up a live conversation every time we get an Epstein story that comes out. And this story has always been a big deal for the MAGA right, in terms of they've paid very close attention to it, and they will continue to do so, but they're not the only ones paying close attention to it. This is going to be something that lingers for a long time, because it has this sort of element of physical content, of receipts, of things that are not known about. And I suspect that, there will be more of this going forward. I don't think the White House can really stop this stuff from coming out. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really, really difficult for them to change the subject. Of course, they're not going to be able to change the subject off this stuff because of the sort of graphic nature of what we're likely to see moving forward, although the Democrats certainly have redacted the faces of the people who are involved in these photos. They're not redacting certain things that are in the photos that point right in the direction of this being a scene around Jeffrey Epstein, just generally speaking, that has been, a questionable one. And we know that from the court trial, but we also know it from some of the photos and some of the images of certain things in the photos that would indicate what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. And it is going to be a distraction for this administration moving forward. There's no doubt about it. This story just never dies. And the reason it never dies is it has the content. All of this content that keeps coming out, photos in particular, are just something that you just can't just, wave away. And I think they're going to have a hard time explaining. I'm really looking, quite frankly, for the president to completely remove and change all the reporters in the White House, because that's one way to get this story out of the news is you do what they did at the Pentagon, which is what they did at the Pentagon was they decided to switch out all of the reporters who were in there on a regular basis. And if you switch those people out, you can then create a situation where you get a bunch of softball, meatball questions. You have to deal with the tough stuff, And I think that's really what this is headed for. There's still some legit reporters in there, and that's why he keeps getting Epstein questions. And he will continue to get questions on Epstein as long as he has that crew in there. But we will see what happens. This is Lauren Burke. This is going to be in a continuing story. And again, with this type of content coming out, this photographic content coming out, this is going to be a thing for quite some time after Christmas. Christmas will slow it down a little bit, but it won't slow it down all the way. I will be back soon with a live a little bit later in the day. This is Lauren Burke, and I will see you soon.
Somewhere. What's going on? Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching on the left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's flowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, I have my grandmother's house in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone is
Get out. It was great.
blowing up our spot.
Their show was freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it, man. Love it.